In this video, we're going to go over a tier list, ranking things from like, you basically got no shot to, hey, this isn't a problem whatsoever. Coach Greg, in today's video, the worst muscle building genetics. And so essentially, should you not even bother?
I still think with all of the worst genetics in the world, if you're in the gym for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even naturally, you will build a good physique.
I completely disagree. If you have the worst genetics in the world, you could train for 10 years straight, perfectly, with my cookbook, supplements, everything, and you still look like garbage in the end. Damn! Sorry, you'll still look like garbage, but it'll be less trashy than last time. And so you can, in fact, improve from the shitty physique that you have, but you're never going to be, let's call it, average. It would be kind of like saying, with the worst genetics for intelligence in the world, could you study harder than last time and eventually be a doctor or surgeon? No. There's certain things that you just aren't in your cards. If you have a shitty genetics for strength, do you really think you're ever going to bench 315? No. Never. Not even close. If you have really shitty endurance genetics, you really think you're ever going to run a mile in under 5 minutes? Absolutely not. Doesn't mean you can't improve your running time. Doesn't mean you can't improve your bench press, but you're never going to be competitive. And so stop the delusion.
Small chest insertions or a super flat chest. I think a lot of people can get away with this. Like, you don't need a big chest to be aesthetic, but to look well-rounded, I think you definitely do.
And so not having a full chest, it sucks. It's one of the most important things that you could have. We're not talking about calves or quads or hamstrings here. We're talking about the pecs. One of the most important muscles that men would like. And so if you don't have a chest, build it. Now, if you can't build it, hey, you can be like Tristan Lee, you can be at 3.7% body fat, or you can build the width of your shoulders, you can have great abs, but you'll never have quite as much of an impressive physique. Imagine Alex Eubank without the pecs. What would people be saying? Or imagine Tristan Lee with Alex Eubanks' pecs. It would make an incredible difference. And so without the full-looking chest, would Arnold have been Arnold? I don't think so.
Narrow clavicles. If you have a narrow frame, a dude who is smaller than you in terms of muscle mass and has a wider frame will be more appealing in the eyes of most women.
Narrow clavicles, essentially you're cooked. You're never going to have those aesthetics. You can still have great looking abs. You can still raise the shirt up and show off your six pack. You can still have cool looking arms, but you'll never be able to look good on a bodybuilding stage. You'll never have that width. You'll never look good in bodybuilding, classic physique or men's physique. You can have a great physique just standing there, like flexing individual body parts, but you're never going to be what people aspire to be like.
Next, we have high lat insertions. Lower lat insertions maybe look a little bit better, but it's like preference, to be honest. I don't think it matters.
Low lat insertions, like generally nobody cares. Like when people look at a physique, they're not really looking at your back. The back is kind of a bonus. It's like when they say, shows are won from the back, perhaps bodybuilding shows, but aesthetics in a physique are judged from the front. How many people are showing their Instagram profile and showing their back? Remember, we're not women. Women, they're judged on the size of their derriere. And so most of their photos are like this. They're looking back and showing you their glutes because they realize that the glutes are almost as important as their face. And so that is what women do. They go to the gym and they train their ass. Does it matter how big the woman's biceps are, triceps, calves, back, lats? No, it doesn't. They don't even need to have abs. And so for the women, it's got to be the chest and the derriere is probably the most important muscles, we'll call it, on their bodies. And for men, the lower lats, it ranks very, very, very low.
A short torso. Okay, I honestly is going to be straight up. I think it's over, bro.
A short torso, it's not going to be helpful. Now, if your goal is to be a deadlifter, a powerlifter, hey, this is great. But if your goal is to look aesthetic and you have a short torso, you have a 4-pack rather than a 6-pack, you don't have that long, elongated aesthetic build. Essentially, you're not David Lade. It's going to be harder than last time. You can still be lean, you can still be athletic, you can still be impressive, but you're just not going to have that certain aesthetic je ne sais quoi.
Next, we have short tricep insertions. I do think you can train your way out of it with big biceps, just getting big arms in general. Yeah, I'm honestly going to say it doesn't matter in terms of aesthetics because you can build your way out of it quite easily.
Smaller triceps, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, of the bicep or the tricep, which is more important? The tricep makes up about 2/3 of the arm size, but the bicep is more important. When somebody says flex your arm, how many people do this? Nobody's doing it. They're all doing that. And so I got in a bike accident. I hardly have any tricep whatsoever. I tore the tricep off the bone and they reattached it and whatever surgeries you get in Canada. Anyway, nobody cares. People don't even really notice it, despite the fact that my left arm is about 3/4 of an inch smaller than my right arm. People don't even care. And so whether you have a horribly small triceps, for example, my horribly small tricep, it isn't costing me very much on the aesthetics points. But if I were to lose my chest or reduce the shoulder width that I have, that absolutely would make a difference.
Next, we have a wide waist. Like almost every truly aesthetic influencer has a tiny as fuck waist. I'm honestly going to put it in Cook.
If your waist is wide, you're going to have double the shoulder width to make up for it. The smaller the waist, the easier you have it. If you have a really small waist, you don't even need a lot of muscle. A really small waist, you wear a tight t-shirt, your waist looks tiny. You look like perhaps Hussein Farhad. Even if Hussein Farhad had 20 pounds less muscle, he would still look good. Bro is 5'11.5" and weighs about 180 pounds, and yet people don't even believe he's natural. Why is that? Probably because his waist is so small and his shoulders are so wide. So he has the X factor. And so that is what's going on. And so if you have a wide waist, of which I had a moderately wide waist, it wasn't wide, it was medium. I was told by judges you could never get a pro card because your waist isn't small enough. And so what did I do? I took steroids, blasted the shit out of them, and spasmed the laterals and built my shoulders bigger than ever. With the added 25 plus pounds of muscle, I made up for it. But when I compete in classic physique, I can't win. And why? Because my waist isn't small enough. And so if you really want to go far, you do need a small waist. And if you have a wide waist, you are cooked.
Next, we have a slow metabolism or guys that started off overweight. But I'm going to say it doesn't matter. Because when you cut that weight as a bigger dude, they're always big.
Slow metabolism doesn't matter. It used to matter. Now, remember when I coach people, this was way back in the day before people could just take Ozempic or for example, terzipatide. Now you can go to Algorex. You can purchase these things. Remember, they're 100% legit. You could also get enclomiphene. You can get GLPs. You can get peptides. You can get all the things. And they're significantly cheaper in prices than, for example, Merrick Health. It's prescribed by doctors along with getting blood work. You can get prescription medications from compounding pharmacies. No guesswork, no research chemical bullshit, and so no risks. And so if you don't want to play Russian roulette with your health, go to Algorex. You can purchase the supplements, medications, and so on. Code Greg, 10% off.
We see this with like all of our clients because we only really coach people to cut down. It's never to bulk. Whenever they actually have the proper information to cut, and they cut down, they always have more muscle mass underneath.
And so if the cookbook isn't enough, if the cycling, zone 2 cardio, walking isn't enough, if putting the fork down isn't enough, and you still have the unrelenting food noise that just cannot stop, you just can't lose that weight, you can take a GLP and you can. It's really that easy now. And so gone are the days where people can make excuses. Now, if you're scared of using peptides and you, for example, got the jab during that time when there was rules about masks and so on, and you got that and you're scared of using peptides, well, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you're just an idiot. But regardless, if you don't want to be morbidly obese and you want to get prescribed these medications, remember, doctors can prescribe these things like Ozempic. This is what it's for. It's not really for bodybuilders to get shredded. They use it to their advantage. But these medications are for people who are, for example, morbidly obese and they don't want to be morbidly obese anymore. You know, that's taking years off your life. And so if you want to be healthier, you get the GLPs. And of course, you can get over-the-counter GLPs, for example, from HDLT supplements. You can take a GLP. It's going to make you less hungry than last time. You're obviously taking Turk Builder Max already. And most of you taking GO2 Max, that's going to help you to do your cardio. And it's going to make it easier than ever before to lose the fat and keep it off. Code Greg, 15% off.
Next, we have fast metabolism. This might be biased, but it sucks.
A fast metabolism doesn't suck. And it's actually a misnomer. It's not really a real thing. Do you know who has the fastest metabolisms in the world? The big people. For example, if you're morbidly obese, your metabolism is way faster than somebody who's shredded. And so you take somebody, for example, 6 foot tall, 160 pounds, peeled. Metabolism is slow. In comparison, 6'6", 450 pounds, morbidly obese. their metabolism is through the roof. They're perhaps burning off 4,000 calories a day just laying there. In comparison, their counterpart probably under 2,000 calories a day. The difference is one is eating in a surplus and the other isn't. That is as simple as I can make it. Whether you think you have a fast metabolism or a slow metabolism, neither of these matter. The only thing that matters is how much food are you eating. Almost every single man in the world has a faster metabolism than a female. But every single female, if she's in a calorie deficit, is going to lose weight, and in a surplus is going to gain weight. And so regardless of how fast your metabolism is, remember, the taller you are, the bigger you are, the more you weigh, you are going to burn calories. For every pound of fat, it burns about 2 calories. For every pound of muscle, it burns about 8. The more fat and muscle you have, the faster your metabolism. That is how it works. And so don't use the excuse, I have a fast metabolism, I have a slow metabolism. Bullshit. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter!
Next is naturally low testosterone levels. If you couldn't do that, I'd say you'd almost be cooked.
And so having low testosterone does not mean that you're cooked. Having high testosterone doesn't mean it's an advantage. The strange thing is this, whether you have low or high testosterone, it depends what your body does with that testosterone. I had a client. His testosterone levels naturally, with nothing, 1,400 nanograms per deciliter. It was so high, I could hardly believe it. We did multiple tests. He was 5'7", a little bit taller than me, 133 pounds. He was training. He didn't have big muscles. He didn't put on muscle easily, but yet his testosterone levels were through the roof. And following this, we even gave him enclomiphene, and his testosterone levels were almost 2,500 from just enclomiphene. He put on a couple of pounds of muscle when was being coached by me, but it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't as if he put on so much more muscle. He wasn't the next Hussein Farhat. And so just because you have elevated levels of testosterone doesn't mean you cannot build muscle. Now, wherever your testosterone levels is right now, it can, of course, be maximized. There's nothing wrong with that. And so if you have very, very low levels of testosterone, for example, 150 nanograms per deciliter, 250, most likely you should go to AlgoRx, get a doctor to prescribe you, for example, testosterone or enclomiphene to boost your testosterone levels higher than last time. But if you're already in the normal range, you could, of course, try to maximize it by taking G-Test Platinum. Perhaps your testosterone is low because you're not sleeping, you're stressed, you're not taking in enough calories, your diet is too low. For example, Tristan Lee, he lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks. How high do you think his testosterone levels could actually be? Now, if he's natural during this process, of course it's going to be low. If he's on testosterone, he doesn't need to worry about it. And so whether you have low or high levels of testosterone to start off with, it doesn't really ultimately determine how much muscle you can put on. But what you want to do, or what you should understand, is maximizing or optimizing your testosterone levels. That is a smart idea, and not doing anything to crush them. And so, for example, when you stay up all night on the weekend gambling and doing creatine or perhaps math, this is not good for your testosterone levels. If you're drinking alcohol, which is poison, it's not good. And so don't do those things, because it's not going to be good for your testosterone. You're not going to build as much muscle. And the other things, getting enough grams of fat in a day and eating healthy, having the correct number of calories, these things are important to optimize your testosterone. And so don't think that just because your testosterone levels are, say, 500, that you can't build any muscle, and that if your friend has 800, that he's going to put on more muscle than you. It's as simple as that.
So next we have short bicep insertions. I think it looks unaesthetic anyway.
Short bicep insertions, it's not as low as it doesn't matter. It's not unaesthetic. It's a big disadvantage at worst. Chris Bumstead won multiple titles with short bicep insertions. Does his arms look as good? Absolutely not. They're not good looking arms, but it's one small muscle in the body. And so it's not that important. Much more important is how wide are your shoulders? How small is your waist?
Next we've got being short. Now if this was a dating tier list, you'd be cooked. However, this is bodybuilding, and I think being short, depending how short you are, can be a good thing.
And so absolutely, if we're talking about getting girls, being short, you're essentially turked. If you're a short manlet like Coach Greg or Jeff Nipa, the science-based lifter who won't take your picture, it's very hard to get a girl. Now, if you are in fact short for bodybuilding, it doesn't matter. They have height classes, weight classes, whatever. And so it's okay. You're being judged on your physique. And yeah, if it's a Samson Dota and he's next to a guy who's 5'6", he has an advantage. but you're shorter, and so you look bigger compared to your height, and so it isn't really all that bad. Now, when it comes to getting girls, essentially you're cooked, and so if you are in fact short, you got to make up for it with everything else. You got to have a great personality. You got to have a thicker wallet than last time. So essentially, like Coach Greg, only 5'6", but 6'5" when sitting on my wallet. So it doesn't really matter. And so you gotta mog backs. If you're short, you can't mog with your height, but you can mog with your muscles, with your personality, with your looks. You can dress nice. You could get a hair transplant. You can put on some nice pair of shoes. You can buy a Ferrari. There's other ways to make up for it. And so if you are in fact short, you're not completely cooked unless it's a dating show. Because on dating show, they only care about your height. That is the only thing that matters. But in the real world, it's not a dating show. They care about how much money you have and if you're funny and if you can please them in the bedroom. That actually matters too.
Yeah, boy.
And remember this, if the guys out there, the girls that are not picking you and they're making fun of you, you're only 5'4", 5'6", whatever. Remember, being 5'4", the female equivalent is being 40. And so whatever girl's turning you down right now because you're not tall enough, oh, they said no to you, you showed up to a blind date and they looked down at you and said, oh, I thought you were 5'10" at least. I can't go on this date. If that's ever happened to you, it's happened to Coach Greg. Remember, that woman is now 50. When a female rejects you, puts you down, it's okay. It's like they're doing you a favor because they're not meant to be. No one in the world is good for everyone. Even if you're the most attractive person in the world, there's still people that are going to find you unattractive. If you're the nicest person in the world, people are going to hate you're being too nice. And so you need to find that one special person that's right for you.
Next, we have the John Jones legs, bad calves.
No one really cares about calves. I'm going to tell you that if you have no calves, it doesn't matter. You can be an IBB pro. You can win the Mr. Olympia with small calves, short calves, thick calves, big calves. No one really cares about calves. Overall, I would say if you're lean, the calves, they're going to look cool. I was made fun of my calves for years. It was crazy. People say your calves are so small. I'm like, yeah, but they're shredded and they actually look pretty good. And so when I got older and I was competing and I was peeled, people would compliment my calves. They say, wow, your calves are shredded. They were never big, despite how much training I did, but the conditioning, it more than made up for it. And so if you don't have big calves, don't worry about it.
Next, we've got small wrists. Now, this is a bigger problem than you might think because small wrists in and of itself isn't like, who cares? You just get a smaller watch size.
Smaller wrists is an advantage. It's not a disadvantage. It doesn't matter. Smaller wrists makes everything look bigger. Having small waists is like having small balls. It makes everything look bigger.
Finally, we have being tall. Now, this is like really tall. I'm talking like 6'5" and over.
If you're 6'5", here's the thing. You might not have an easier time putting on muscle, but you don't need it because you're 6'5". I had to sit on my wallet to be equal to you. You're poor and you're 6'5", and that's equal to Coach Greg having millions of dollars. And so picture this. You trained harder than last time. You haven't put on a lot of muscle. You're a little bit lanky. Perhaps you look more like a basketball player. You're 6'5" and 220. You're still 220. I'm 5'6", 190. And so even if you don't have a lot of muscle, you still mog because you're 6'5". And so don't complain. None of this, oh, I'm so tall, I can't put on muscle. I have to bench press twice as far as you. So you get to be 6'5".
If you want to talk about general appeal as well, the treatment you get for being tall plus jacked is completely different to being short and jacked.
It's like, really, guys, like picture C-Bum was 5'4". He's not C-Bum. He's Chris Bumstead. Chris Bumstead at 5'4" is not C-Bum. Lou Ferrigno, if he was 5'5", he would be Franco Columbu. He wouldn't be Lou Ferrigno. It's a total different ball game. When you're that tall, it's more impressive because you stand out more. You're up there. It's like being a woman in her 20s with a large derriere with breast implants in comparison to being 40 with neither. You can have the greatest personality in the world. A lot of people aren't going to notice it because you're not in your 20s and you don't have those other aspects going on. There you have it. That is the tier list for genetics. Remember, the face card is probably worth just as much as your body. And so this, even though it's perhaps 10% of your body, like it's not a lot, it's worth about 50% of the score. It's kind of like when I judge a female's attractiveness. And so if you have a 10 out of 10 body, but a 2 out of 10 face, essentially a butter face, everything is hot butter face, you still average it out and you're still a 6. You're still above average. And so despite the fact that, hey, look away, I'm hideous, the face, it just isn't there. The body makes up for it. And so if you were stricken with a horrible face card, it isn't there. You can still work on the body. If you do in fact look bad, most of it is probably because you're fat. Most people, if they're not fat, they don't look all that bad, especially men. If you're not lean enough, you might not see any of the bones, you might not be chiseled out enough. And so if you just get your body fat to, let's call it 10 to 15%, you're going to see a world of difference. You might be a 4 out of 10, but you lean max, and now you're a 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 is freaking all that you need. If you're at a 7 out of 10, you're above average good looking, and you have some money, and you're not 5'6", you got it made. Now, if you're 5'6" and you're a 7 out of 10, you can still get older girls that realize that, hey, my time is gone. I can't get those dream men anymore. And so you can still date the older girls. So just take your time. If you're 25 years of age or younger, you don't need to have a girlfriend right now. You don't need to have a wife. You can wait until you're 35, 40, 45, or even 50, and you can then pick from the younger girls. You get the pick of the litter. And so more dating advice from Coach Greg than last time. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algo, go to AlgoRx for all of your needs. Use code Greg for 10% off, as well as visit HDLT Supplements. You can get the cookbook, you can get all the various supplements. You can, for example, get Blue Lobster. Remember the pre-workout, more pre-workout than last time. Don't forget to get the GO2 Max, the Turk Builder Max, the Turk Platinum. Don't forget to watch 2 of those bloobs. Watch them both. And until next time, I am out.